Alright, starting the day off in the Chaser. I've got a lot of my cars that are left in my house from everybody staying over and driving them, so I gotta slowly start getting them all over to the warehouse again. But today, we're gonna go work on the Skyline. I'm really excited. We've got a bunch of new stuff to finally get to work on that and hopefully get it together soon. So I'm heading over to the warehouse a little bit later. Mondays are a little bit manic, as always, but doing the best I can. Alright, so we showed up to the shop a little bit later than I would have liked, and Alberto, being the great man that he is, saved the day as usual and has been filming some clips here and there. And I will toss in some content about what you see in front of us right now and how we got to this point.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another Big Boost session. Today we're going to be working with a CD09. In this case, this one is going on the R32, which is gonna be upgraded for a 6-speed, I don't know, what do you call it? CD0? CD009, so 2, I don't know. Has a bunch of numbers. Whatever it is, it's a 6-speed now. I'm just kidding, guys. So it's a CD09, but it has different numbers. This case is CD0, which is the late model one with the clutch fork, which has been removed now because we're no longer gonna be using that. Then over here we have an automatic RB25 bell housing, which I clean off, respray, so it looks just like brand new cast aluminum, so it matches the brand new transmission unit. But we are probably going to have to cut this transmission in half, or should I say leave 2/3 out, and then the other third is gonna be cut pretty much right around here to remove the bell housing. Then we're gonna be using an adapter plate that's in here, and then we are going to match the RB25 bell housing to the CD09, which is gonna be sick because we're gonna make this thing even better than it was before. If we look at instructions right here, you can see pretty much where we need to cut, which is pretty much flush with this part right here. So it's basically pretty much right in front of the rib or behind the rib. I gotta double check that. But once we do that, then I can bolt on this adapter plate and match up the transmission pretty much like this. Here's what I was telling you guys about the transmission styles. You can see we have a CD0, and there's CD5 and CD8. So in this case we have the CD0, so that's the transmission that we're using. That means that we have to use pretty much no ring. They have like these little rings here, depending if you have another transmission model, so you can use it on 3 different types. But since we have this one, we do not need a ring to space out the bearing part. Transmission, say hello to my little friend. Next step will be to remove the front cover on this transmission, which are 12mm bolts. Just gonna take this off. This thing should just literally just come right off. Yep. Perfect, got it. In addition to cutting everything flat, I had to also take off this little part right here, so the other part of the aluminum bracket can fit. Also had to grind down all of these right here. This one a little bit. This one also has to be shaved down. This one stays fine. All down here is fine. Had to grind here, here, and here. So basically all of those parts have to be clearance, and it hogs the plate just perfectly. Now I put in a new OEM gasket on the plate, and I put 2 bolts to use as pilots to line everything up. That way the gasket doesn't just fall off and then I can't position it properly. Then these bolts that are included with the kit are Torx T40 size. Just gonna hand tighten this to align the plate in place. That's as much clearance as we have here. We have barely no clearance on this rib. This one is fine, this one's fine. Then down here, again, almost touching, we have just that little bit of a gap right there. And it's a pretty flush installation. On these bolts, I'm going to be using Permatex Red Thread Locker, which is a high strength one. And then we're gonna torque these to 22 foot-pounds. On these bolts, I'm going to be using Permatex Red Thread Locker, which is a high strength one. And then we're gonna torque these to 22 foot-pounds. Then the next step was to pretty much just install all these studs. They use Red Thread Locker as well, and then they go torque to 10 foot-pounds. And then now we're gonna put the bell housing and put these nuts to 50 foot-pounds, also with Red Thread Locker.
All right, so back to the present. We're here now with Alberto, who is finalizing the CD setup for the Skyline with the brand new bell housing. Alberto, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Having fun with this stuff.
So we're finally going to get a CD, a much better transmission that was in the R32 and the R32. So if you remember, before I had a Z32 box, which is similar to an RB25 box, strong, but the issue is it didn't like being shifted while I was at high RPM and under load. So with the CD, if you guys have never driven a CD car, you can basically slam it into any gear at any RPM, at any load, and it likes it. So doing this is kind of hopefully gonna make it a little more reliable, a little bit less noisy, because the shifter is super annoying, and a lot more fun to drive. But there wasn't a lot of adapter plate kits on the market, and we found this one that a friend recommended to us. Not a lot of people that have experience with it, but we thought we would give it a shot. I really like the style that utilizes a factory bell housing. I don't know if Alberto mentioned it or not, but that is an automatic RB bell housing. I think we needed to use an automatic because of the way that the bolts and everything is laid out, but it's not a very common thing to do on R32s, at least to my knowledge, so we'll see how it goes. What I'm gonna start working on while Alberto's finishing that up is dealing with this shifter setup. So I'm gonna get a length on the, oh, actually we can do it now. We can just put it next to the old one, huh?
All right, Adam, you ready? Ready to hug your tranny? Hug your tranny as hard as you can.
Hey!
Wait, it should be like,
Hey! Beep already! There we go. Okay, I'm gonna get a better grip. These things are sharp, dog. It's a sharp tranny.
Get a rag or something.
It's like, it's weird because it's like oily, but it's not oily. You know what I mean?
Oily, but not oily. I have not heard that one before. That's not first.
It's like it like feels like it should be oily, but it's
slick.
Nah, it's not even slick. It's like maybe you think that it's oily because you're so used to old transmissions that it's like weird when it's not oily. You know what I'm saying, my guy?
Come on, hog your tranny.
I need to like come up with a more clever way to do this.
Alright, I'll assist.
Okay. There we go. I definitely do a better job in back, if you know what I'm saying. Where's the Showmanator when we need him?
Show him I'm waiting you to hold a tranny.
I know I've said in many videos, guys, that I would never own an LS, but I was in need of a coffee table. So if you notice, we've got a good old LS chilling at the shop. Just for coffee. Just a coffee table, that's all it is. It's all good. It's all it's good for. So, I wanted to lay these next to each other to get an idea in comparison of the two. So interestingly enough, the drive shaft length isn't going to be that much different. I think we have a different input. Is it called the input yoke? Is that what we called? Input shaft? Input spline?
The yoke.
Yeah, so I think the yoke's going to need to be changed. But actually very close in length. However, look at how much farther back the shifter is, and if you remember my R32, the shifter was already too far back, which the only real way to avoid that would be going to an RB transmission where the shifter is actually on the top plate. It'd be really cool if someone made that for the, actually it would be too close. But anyway, we've got the super nice Serial 9 CD 999 shifter, and with this on there, it looks like we'll be in about the same location, maybe a hair more forward than my old shifter, but because it's a little bit shorter of a throw, I think that we won't have as much of an issue as I did before, where I would be shifting and like hitting my coffee cup and stuff. So the whole reason we're doing this swap is to avoid spilling my drinks in my cup holders, and I think that we're on the right track to accomplishing that. Don't you?
Yep.
But anyway, look at how nice this looks. I'm really excited. So.
Yeah, it's so clean compared to the other one too.
Yeah.
I love new parts.
And hopefully too, I don't know how much we'll need to necessarily cut or bang, but I don't think we'll need to do much since that is an RB bell housing. I think it should just bolt right up.
It should fit right on, yeah.
I know the one issue though is sometimes you have to make a little bit of clearance on these guys that we can always accomplish with a hammer, just for the extra girth that you get in the CD box.
True.
Yep.
To smash the car up, yes.
No, I mean, it is really nice though to do a CD and not have to smash the tunnel.
It is good, yeah.
Shulman's not here and he's the tranny tunnel smasher, so. So the cool thing about this kit that I got is you are able to use a 350Z clutch, which has bigger surface area, a little bit more clamping force. However, the clutch that came with the kit was like a single disc, and the flywheel I wasn't too crazy about. So we did find out that we could use my old setup, and I really liked this twin disc that I had. I really liked how this flywheel responded and everything. It felt like a nice weight, and it still has plenty of life left. So I'm just gonna send that clutch stuff that came with it back, and then we're gonna use my old clutch setup on this kit. So I'm pretty excited. I'm really excited to drive this thing again. So the main reason why we're focused on tranny stuff now, even though the car isn't running, I want to get the tranny up there so I can take measurements of the drive shaft and go get a drive shaft made, since that'll be our biggest speed bump. But the goal is to get the drive shaft measured today, and then hopefully get it fired up tomorrow. We'll still need to do some fab stuff, but if we can get it started tomorrow, that'd be tight. All right, it's not gonna affect us too much right now. This will be more of just like a thing that pushes us back a little bit on the timeline, but we do have some bad news that Alberto just found out. All right, man. Why don't you just remove that floater real quick, huh? Wait, what? Is it stuck? That's not right. So if you guys are familiar, twin discs have two different floaters. That's why they're called twin discs. And they should just easily move back and forth, which that one obviously doesn't.
They should do this.
So that's a big ol' yikes.
And then this one is pretty heated up, and it's warped, and it does not want to slide properly. It's like all out of shape.
I'm sure the drag racing didn't help. I wonder if we should be going to a gnarlier clutch, or if we should keep the same one and just know that they have a lifespan like that.
They do have a lifespan, but you beat the clutch out of this clutch.
I mean, it lasted like a year, and I did a lot of drag launches with it, so.
Yeah.
That's weird that it was able to warp so much, just that it kind of would get stuck, and I never had any clutch issues with that car.
You see, if you line up this one, look how much it doesn't line up with the next one. It's like bad.
That's crazy. So one thing I had Alberto do, just to be preventative, I remember on the S13, this little ridge up here that his hand is over created some issues with clearance in the actual tranny tunnel. So he went ahead and grinded that down, got a hole for the lines to come out with the 350Z style slave that we got in there. Do you like internal slaves? I like internal slaves.
As long as they're metal, yes.
So this one I actually got for my Z, but I ended up using one that came with the kit in my Z that was also metal. I have an internal slave in my S13 as well, and when they're nice, like, they feel a lot nicer, I feel like, than an external one. I like it.
They're supposed to work better because they're hub centered, so they don't have a thing that's offset. They're just straight center pressure, so they're in fact better. But the OEM one that comes with this transmission is plastic, so you don't want to use that one, because anything more pressure than a stock pressure plate disc blows it up.
I guess one argument could be made though that these are a little bit harder to service, so it's not like having an external slave where the slave goes bad and you could easily just swap it out. These ones you would have to pull the trans, but we have a pretty sick internal slave. I think this is a Z1 Fever one, that, or what is it, not Z1 Fever, Z1 Motorsports? Yeah, their internal slave that most people use. Alright, so the good news is the actual bell housing fit with plenty of room to spare. The bad news is, kind of like I predicted, we're going to have to do some clearancing just like we did on my S13. So this little place where the crossmember mounts, I believe on my S13 we just kind of bashed it in with a hammer, just get enough clearance to squeak this by. Then once it's up there I think we'll be okay. In this situation, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case, because it seems like it goes fairly straight up, so we might need to clearance quite a bit, Alberto. But the good news is this stuff is easier to clearance, so should be able to just bash that up, get that pretty situated. Alberto, can we grind off some of this a little bit?
A little bit, just an edge, but it'll just get a little bit of clearance.
So that'll help grind that down a little bit. But the real bad news is where the shifter winds up. Not the easiest to show, but if you look, the shifter does actually line up a little bit farther back than the last one, which was already farther back than I wanted. So it looks like the solution for that is going to be that I will probably end up getting, I think a company called We Are Likewise makes a pretty cool like shifter relocation thing, where it's like a rod that clamps to the other rod and moves it forward. So I think that in conjunction with the Serial 9 shifter should be good. So I'm just trying to get this car back to like full interior, make it look nice. And I hated that like cut up shift boot that I had just for the shifter. So hopefully I can get that sorted. I saw a lot of you guys on social media asking about the shirts that we had at FD, the S15 shirts. So these are now available on the website. We don't have a ton of them, so I allocated like half of the inventory to the website, but the other half we're saving for FD Atlanta. So if you'll be at FD Atlanta, we'll have shirts there, as well as posters, which are similar to these. We basically made two different prints. There's this one, and then there's a different one that we made for the FD rounds, but these are going to be a limited edition numbered print. We have 400 of these, and then we have about 400 of the other ones that we are selling at the FD rounds, but these ones will be signed and numbered, and they're available on the website, as well as these shirts right now. These are basically the same thing as our team shirt, minus the official race team thing on the back and the sponsor logos on the front. I wanted to sell the actual same shirts that we have as our team, but the problem is we wanted to be able to easily identify who was a part of the team and who wasn't, and that way we don't have people walking around FD with our team shirts on, God forbid something happens, or you know, they punch someone and then it's like, oh, are you part of the team? And they're like, you're looking at the shirt, I'm part of the team, but you're not part of the team. You just have the shirt. But anyway, so that stuff is on the site now, and then also, I don't know where I was going with that, but these are available now, and they're tight. And if you're wondering why I made the color a bit more red than it is in real life, if I made it too dark, it just looked kind of funny on black, so I made it a little bit more pink, but I thought it looked tight, so it looks rad. That was indeed intentional, and I thought it looked rad. Oh, we also have more S15 lanyards in stock too, so look, match, sick. So if you look up at the trans after the tunnel bashing, shout out to Schulman, there is plenty of space now up there. So it's pretty close. We'll want to make sure when Alberto's making the brackets and everything that he leaves ample room, because if we have any vibrations, it will sound like death if it vibrates on the actual chassis. So
there's tons of room now. Also, another issue I was having, I didn't have any wiggle room to put a transmission in, so if you have a little bit extra room to actually position it, you can play with it a little bit, and it's a lot easier to install.
So we've got our drive shaft measurement. Unfortunately, the actual yoke is different for the 350Z Trans as opposed to Z32, but we got the length from that flat surface all the way back to the flange and the diff. And I'm going to get another aluminum drive shaft made from Raw Brokerage. Last one that they had made for me was really, really nice. A lot of my drive shafts, I used to go to this like kind of cheaper place, and they didn't balance them as well, and I would get a lot of like drivetrain vibration. So now we're all set, and we'll have another one on the way. Alberto started mocking up the new exhaust manifold, and as you can see, we got way better turbo fitment now. Before we used to constantly be like hitting the actual firewall, but wait, did I show this on camera yet? I think I did.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Alright, well, we'll show them once it's down anyway, so they can get a little better idea. But that will be tight. Look at how beautiful that Doc Race manifold looks. So as I said before, we switched from having a divided T4 flange to having a single scroll T4 flange, since we use a single scroll 3071. And mainly just because I wanted to get rid of the second wastegate back here that was causing a lot of heat management issues. So now, since we only have the one wastegate up front, it'll be easy to service, and we'll be able to route the lines in a better way that we don't have all this heat from this exhaust manifold melting lines and fittings and stuff. So with the new turbo placement, it looks like it's going to be a lot easier in terms of clearance with the strut tower, and it also looks like it's going to be a lot easier to access the lines underneath the turbo, since we have all this extra room from behind without the wastegate to access and service lines and stuff as compared to before.
Oh my god, yes, the line servicing is definitely better.
Yeah, before, dude, it was so tough, and like how the lines were routed and everything.
Especially as rain one.
Normally this would be like a thing where like I wouldn't really know how hard it is to service because Alberto would be doing it all the time. But when I was in Connecticut, I had to deal with those lines probably a dozen times because they kept melting in my dad's parking lot, or sorry, in the road in front of my dad's house with like limited tools working in the dirt. So like, I'm hyped for this. And since the plan for this car is to go back up to Connecticut, I'll likely be working in the dirt in front of my dad's house again. And I just want to make sure that we don't have problems. Yeah.
You working in the dirt? What?
What do you mean you working in the dirt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to see those videos.
I'll show you the videos. There's videos. I'll prove it. I do things on cars sometimes.
Alright, I'll be watching.
Yeah, I do more than just groom this delicious mustache, I tell you what. But anyway, got a new pretty wastegate on there. I think Evan Shanks might actually cop the old manifold, so I would say it's for sale, but I think he wants it. And I think I can actually sell it to him now that we know that this fits. So I guess we do have a little bit of trouble with clearance on the intake manifold. Just Oh, Alberto, that's just barely touching it.
And we still have to go up a little bit more right here, and then we also need wiggle room.
What? Oh, nah, it's so close, dude. Like, at first I was gonna say we can do an S14 booster because they're a little bit slimmer, and we can, or we can. It is cool to have the bigger volume boosters though, because then I get less like running out of vacuum while I'm left foot braking deal. I'm just debating whether it's so close that I would almost rather just kind of like play around, since this is a mock-up one, see how much we have to dent it in to make it fit,
We can do that.
and then go from there. Because if we can just dent the intake manifold a little bit, because we have ITBs, I don't think it'll affect flow as much, right?
More problem.
What?
Right now, I mocked it up without putting this on, because you normally have to bolt this part on, and then you have all these studs, so you literally should be able to back it out of these studs.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to like go all the way out. So how will we install the intake manifold then?
Pull the brake booster? Yeah.
Alright, back to stock RB25 manifold.
I don't remember if we showed you guys this stuff, but this is Otaku Garage's prototype. I think it's a prototype. I don't know if this is out yet. It's their VTC relocation kit. So this is kind of the solenoid that will fire and activate the cam situation to give us a little bit quicker spool. And as you can see, it'll kind of mount, and then we'll need an oil feed line to it, and then an oil exit that will go to that little adapter that is right where this solenoid used to be. So kind of interesting. So how does that, oh, I guess it's basically,
You feed oil to it, so you have two chambers. So basically you feed oil on this part, and then the solenoid will allow oil to flow on the other side to adjust how much advanced timing you have, which in this case just like an on-off switch.
Got it.
It doesn't have like the newer ones you can adjust by degree. This one's on like all the way or all the way back kind of thing.
Interesting.